in pain or discomfort, as in joint pain. Muscular discomfort, entirely up to you. If you need to stop, have a little rest, a stretch, stop and rest. If you can keep it going for as long as you can. Usual props, so the ball and the band. If I don't have a band, a strap, a belt will do the work. If I don't have a ball, a cushion, or a rolled up towel will work instead of the ball. So first the thing, if I'm seated, trying to sit up nice and long, nice and straight. If I'm lying down, using the mat to relax fully on the mat, allowing the arms to open up, palms to turn to face up to the ceiling, legs bent or straight, whichever way works better for you. And then focusing on the breath, especially if I'm seated. If I let myself slouch, I'm compressing through the abdomen into the diaphragm, your big breathing muscle inside the rib cage. So the diaphragm can expand and relax as it should. And then I'm forcing myself into breathing into the chest, into the top of the chest, which is not a relaxed breath. It's a breath that takes us into a fight and flight mode. So it's kind of like stressing the body out. So see if I can try and straighten myself up as much as I can, creating space for the diaphragm to be able to expand and relax. If I'm lying down, I'm just going to let everything relax completely so that the diaphragm can move. On the inhalation, on the breath in, I can feel the belly expanding out. On the exhalation, I'm just going to let it soften, let it relax the back. And then at the same time, I was focusing on the breath. See if I can use the breath to calm the body, running a quick scan over the body. So noticing where everything is, the pressure at the back of my shoulders, at the back of my hips, under the hips if I'm sitting down, the position of my arms, the position of my legs, my head. Is there any tension anywhere within the body? Is there any discomfort, any niggle anywhere within the body? I'm not changing anything, just noticing where everything is and how I feel to begin with. And then once that I feel a little bit more settled, the breath feels that little bit softer, a little bit more relaxed, I'm going to start working on the shoulders. I'm going to start off with a little elevation and depression. So I'm going to shrug the shoulders up to the head, up to the ears, and then I'm going to let them come down again. I'm going to shrug them up and then let them come down. If you're laying down, just to think with the shoulder blades, think of following the floor, following the mat. If you're seated, the same as usual, a slight deviation from that centered position, my shoulders going forward just a little, and then as I depress, they'll tend to squash me down, pull me down. The front of the chest will prevail. If I exaggerate and lock back, then they'll pull me backwards and the back of the shoulder will prevail. So see if I can find a position in between the two extremes where I can feel that the shoulders can slide up and down. The tension between the front of the chest and the back of the shoulder is the balance, the tension. The spine is keeping neutral. I'm not leaning backwards. I'm not leaning forward. 3, 2, 1, and easing down. Then keeping the shoulders depressed, press down and away from the head. I'm going to start protracting them, pulling them forward, and then retracting them, squeezing them together at the back. So it's a little protraction and a little retraction. Feeling the shoulder blades moving towards the side of the rib cage as I protract, and then moving close to the center of the spine as I retract. So forward and back, forward and back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. I feel a little bit looser, hopefully around the shoulder girdle, around the back of the shoulder. I'm going to see if I can start going into circles. So I'm going to combine all the 4 directions together. I'm going to protract the shoulders. I'm going to pull them forward. I'm going to lift them towards the head. I'm going to push them back, press them down, and then forward again. So if I'm seated, I've got all the space possible, so I can really go for a nice big movement. There will be all sorts of scrunching and clicking noises. As far as there is no pain with the clicking, I'm going to keep the movement nice and big. If there is discomfort, I'm going to ease off on the size of the movement, but still keeping it going. If I'm lying down, obviously, I'm a little bit limited for space because of the mat underneath, but I can still get some roll going through the shoulder. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Adjusting the shoulders, relaxing through the shoulders, relaxing through the back. And then I'm going to focus on the arm. What I want is to work from the shoulder down to the wrist. So I'm going to let the arms come down by the side. And then whether I'm seated or lying down, I'm going to start lifting one arm at a time. I'm going to raise it up to the front. And then I'm going to take it up, take it back as far as I can. Returning the arm back. And then I'm going to try the same thing to the other side. See if you can picture the movement. I want the arm to move into the shoulder socket. This time, I don't want the shoulder socket to move up or down. So see if you can be aware, making sure that the arm goes up. The space between your arm, your shoulder, and your head is still a wide space. There's still an open space. So the shoulder is not suddenly touching your head. It's not suddenly hanging off your ears. And then I'm just going to return the arm back. So it could be a little movement. It could be a big movement. It depends on your shoulder. It depends on the mobility and the strength. If I'm laying down, it's easier as I'm working with gravity. So it's helping me. If I'm seated, it's harder. The arms get heavier and heavier as I'm working against gravity. I need to lift it against the gravity. So I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to make the movement a little bit smaller. If I feel that the arm or the shoulder starts feeling a little bit stiff, making sure that I'm not letting the neck help. So no stiffening, no tensing into the neck. 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arm. And then this time I'm going to focus on the elbows. I'm going to reach the arms to the front. So if I'm lying down, they'll be pointing to the ceiling. If I'm seated, they'll be pointing to the wall opposite me. And then with the right hand, I'm going to touch the left shoulder. So I'm going to bend the elbow and then touch across. Then I'm going to return the arm. With the left, I'm going to touch the right, return back. With the right, I'm going to touch the left, come back, left to the right, come back, and then to the other side. So it's a nice light touching. It's a nice, easy movement. If you're seated, again, the arms are suspended at shoulder height. They will get very heavy very quickly. So if I feel that the neck starts tightening, I'm just going to drop them down, relax them slightly, and then pick them up again when I'm ready to do so. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing down. Giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll, and then I'm going to see if I can start working through the wrist joint a little bit more. I'm going to interlock the fingers, so locking the hands together, and then imagine to have, I don't know, a tennis ball in your hands. I'm going to start rolling the tennis ball. So see if you can think of the wrists rolling around as much as possible. So I'm going to try and mobilize, loosen up through the wrist joint, especially if it feels stiff, especially if it feels tight. Again, same as I did for the shoulders, same as I did for the elbows. I'm not forcing the movement. If it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, I'm not going to force it there. 5, 4, 3, 2. Now see if you can roll the ball the other way. 10. It always feels awkward. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing back. Releasing through the wrists, releasing through the shoulders. And then I'm going to start focusing on the hips. So shuffling the feet so that the feet is about hips width apart. They're down on the floor. I'm going to start going into a little posterior tilt, anterior tilt. So into a little forward and back with the back. So I'm just going to roll back onto the tailbone, round in the lower back. And then I'm going to roll forward from the hips, straightening up the lower back. Just a little tilt, and then I'm going to come back. A little tilt, and then come back. So just gentle rocking down at the bottom of the spine, loosening up through the back. Just a little bit of movement into the hip joint, the pelvis tilts back, the front of the hip is opening. As the pelvis comes back into neutral, is going to close. So it's a little extension and a little flexion. If I'm laying down exactly the same, I'm just going to tilt the pelvis back. The lower back is going to press gently into the mat. And then I'm going to push myself back into neutral. So forward and back, as if I was massaging the back of the hips, the back of the pelvis, the lower back. So it's a softer movement. I'm not squeezing with the bum. I'm not pushing harder through the feet, through the legs. I'm trying to keep it as relaxed as possible. 3, 2, 1. And easing back. I'm going to reset my neutral, and then keeping the legs where they are, I'm going to start going into a little knee drop. So I'm going to start moving into the hip joint more. I'm going to start opening the right knee out to the right, as far to the right as I feel that I can go without twisting in that direction, without turning my hips in that direction. So the hips are staying still. It's just the leg that moves. I'm going to squeeze the leg back to the top, and then holding the right, I'm going to open up with the left. Then coming back, holding the left, and then opening up the right. So it could be a little movement, a big movement. It doesn't matter. Just to see if you can be aware of the leg moving into the hip socket. So I'm trying to warm up into the hip. I'm trying to create movement into the hip. If I'm seated, obviously a little bit limited for space because I'm sitting on the seat bench, so it's not easy to move the leg, but I can still create a reasonable movement out and then back, out and then back. So I'm going to open, close, open, close the other way. Same as I did for the pelvic tilt. Think of a nice, smooth, soft movement that is just kind of like almost as if it was massaging into the hip joint, into the back of the pelvis. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing back. Returning the legs back to the middle. From opening and closing, I'm going to go into lifting and lowering. So I'm going to focus on the same leg. So I'll be working with the right leg first. If I know that the leg is temperamental, so I can't control it, especially pulling it up towards me, taking the foot up and away from the mat, then I might use either my hands or the band, the strap around the back of the leg so that I can use my arms to guide the leg into the movement. And then same as I did for that lateral opening, I'm just going to start moving the leg up and down. Whether the foot lifts off the ground, it doesn't matter. Just to see if you can think of a little, again, a little movement into the hip, but this time that is encouraging that up and down movement into the hip joint. So whether I'm seated or lying down, just I'm not forcing the leg into a massive lift. I just want a little, and then controlling it back, a little up, and then controlling it down. With or without the support of the band. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing into the hip, I'm going to repeat the same thing on the left side. So if I need a little support, I'm going to feed the band behind the leg so that I can help it with the arms. I can guide it with the arms. And then same as I did on the right side, I'm just going to aim for the thigh to move towards the chest, towards the belly, and then I'm just going to let it go back. Little movement or big movement. Again, it's not important, just to see if I can relax through the hip. So using the arms again for a little help if I need. And then also comparing right and left side, I might feel that the right leg felt really heavy, the left leg is much lighter, is moving much better, or vice versa. I feel the left leg feels really heavier while the right felt smoother, felt easier to move, to lift. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing the hip, releasing the leg. So it's a little bit more movement into the hip joint. I'm going to go back onto the arms, but this time what I want is to add a little resistance with the band or with the strap. So I'm going to feed the strap behind the thighs, behind the legs. If you've got a strap and not a band, as usual, keep it a little slack so that I've got a little play, you know, some room to play with the tension. If it's elastic, I'm going to try and keep it tight around the back of the leg so it doesn't drop. I might just close the knees enough to kind of like block it behind the knees so it's not going to drop down onto the floor. I'm going to grip the band so that the thumbs are pointing up towards the head, so thumbs up. And then with the thumbs up, as I'm holding the band, what I want is the chop end of the band to coincide with my thumb. So chop end to the thumb. If I do the opposite, chopped end to the little finger, then the band will wrap around the wrist and will start putting pressure into the wrist, as I'll have to work the wrist much harder. So band chopped end to the thumb, so that as I pull, the wrist is in a steadier, stronger position. And then from there, I'm just going to decide the resistance that I want. I'm going to climb my hands close to the legs. I'm going to tuck the arms, tuck the elbows by the side of the body, and then taking a deep breath in, I'm just going to pull the band up slightly. So bending the elbows just a little bit more. I'm going to ease the tension, allow the arms to relax, and then I'm going to pull again. I should be able to feel a little tension through the bicep into the front of the arm. Again, it doesn't need to be massive. If it's a strap, I want something I want the strap to be a little bit looser around the legs so that I've got a little room to pull it and then ease back, pull it and ease back. So my hands won't be able to go up very high, but as I pull with the band, I can feel the tension there. Just make sure that to pull on the band, you're not hunching yourself forward. So I'm going to try and keep my chest lifted, especially if I'm seated, keeping the chest lifted, keeping the back nice and upright. I'm not suddenly hunching forward and rounding myself down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing through the shoulders, relaxing through the arms. So I feel that I've got a good tension. It's a good movement. I can feel the bicep working. Now I'm going to try and pay a little bit more attention to the wrist. Although I'm holding the band in the safer position for my wrist, so chop tender to the thumb, what I want is to make sure that as I pull on the band again, my wrist doesn't collapse, it doesn't buckle. So see if you can think of the wrist holding straight, holding strong, so that the hand and the forearms are joined together. So I'm keeping a neutral wrist joint. I'm not allowing it to flop. I'm not allowing it to buckle. So I'm going to reset my position again. And then I'm just going to give the band a little tug, but this time I'm going to keep an eye on the wrists. So I want to keep that straight line on both of my wrists. I don't want the wrist to collapse, to give way. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and releasing back. Giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll, allowing the arm to relax, allowing the wrist to roll slightly, making sure that there is no discomfort in the wrist and the hand. And then I'm going to work back into the legs. Same as I did for the arms. This time I'm going to add a little resistance to the movement. So I'm just going to start with the ball around the knees. And then keeping the feet just a little bit closer than hips width apart. What I want to focus on is one leg at a time. So one leg has to hold. So both legs are working anyway. But what I want is to focus on one leg at a time first. So I'm going to try and hold with my left, and then I'm going to squeeze the right into the ball. Then I'm going to release the right, hold with the left, and then squeeze with the right. And then ease back. Only a little squeeze. On a scale 1 to 10, it's about 5 or 6. So I'm not trying to explode the ball. I'm not trying to pop the ball. But see if you can be aware of that tension through that right inner thigh. So every time that I squeeze, I can feel that tightening. I can feel the muscles pulling to draw the leg into the ball. And then I'm just going to gradually let it go. The left is keeping nice and still. It's not being pushed out of the way. It's not moving with the other side. So holding the left and then squeezing with the right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Giving the leg a little bit of a rest, and then I'm going to try the same thing, but with the left side. So I'm going to hold steady with the right, and then I'm going to squeeze in with the left. Same as usual. If I feel this side a bit temperamental today, I don't seem to be able to squeeze it in, I'm just going to guide it with the hand. So I'm just going to tell the leg where I want it to go. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and releasing back. So I've tried with both sides, and now I know that the right feels really strong, the left feels a bit weaker, or vice versa. The left is really strong, the right is really weaker. So I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to the weaker side. And then this time I'm going to squeeze with both legs at the same time. So I want the same amount of tension between right and left. And then I'm just going to ease that tension back. So I want the same amount of tension between right and left, and then I'm going to ease back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and releasing back. Relaxing through the hip, relaxing through the inner thigh, and then I'm going to switch the effort. From the inside, I'm going to work on the outside. So I'm just going to push the ball to the side, and then I'm going to wrap the band around the legs. So if it's long enough, I'm just going to put a little knot or a little bow into place. If the band or the strap is a little bit short, I'm just going to hold that tension with my arms. And then same as I did for the ball, the band is around the knees, but it's not in the knee joint, so it's pressing against the thigh bone, so there is no pressure directly on the knee. I'm going to step the feet a little bit further away, so think of back to hips width apart, and then from here I'm just going to start locking, holding with the left, pushing out with the right. So a little push out into the band, into the strap, and then I'm going to ease back. So I'm going to hold with the left and push out with the right, and then coming back. Same as I did for the pushing into the ball. So for the pulling in, guiding with the hand, telling the leg where to go. If I feel that the leg is not understanding the movement or is struggling a little bit to follow the movement, so I'm just going to push it in the direction I want it to move. And then again, the movement, it doesn't need to be massive. It's only a little movement, but I can feel the tension reaching all the way up into the side of the hip, along the side of the leg. The back is relaxed. I'm not gripping with the back. I'm not stiffening with the back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Relaxing the leg. I'm going to repeat the same thing with the left. So I'm going to hold the band with the right, and then I'm going to push out with the left. Easing back, and then pushing out again. 2, 3, trying to control both ways as the leg pushes into the band, and then as the leg returns back. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and releasing back. Giving the legs a little rub, relaxing into the hip, relaxing into the thigh, and then same as I did on the ball. So I can see that my left leg is much stronger than my right, or vice versa. My right is much stronger than my left. I'm going to pay attention to the weak side again. And then as I push out into the band with both legs, I'm trying to create the same amount of tension right and left. And then I'm just going to ease my way back to the middle. So pushing out, 2, and then easing back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and releasing back. Easing the tension, I'm going to undo the band. I'm going to release the tension from the band or from the strap, relaxing the legs. And then I'm going to move back onto the arms. I still want to work against the resistance. So whether it's the band or the strap, I can do both. The strap obviously limits the range of movement, but it's because there is no give, but the band, obviously stretches out a little bit more. With the strap, I just need to keep it a little bit slacker. So I want to be able to open my arms just a little bit wider than the shoulders. So this kind of movement, I want to be able to feel the back of my shoulders squeezing. The elbows are pointing down. So with the strap or with the band, if the band is stretchy, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to adjust my grip depending on how much tension I can work with. I'm going to take a deep breath in, and then as I breathe out, I'm going to pull out on the band. I'm going to stretch it out. If it's a stretchy one, so I can actually pull it out all the way, I'm aiming for the band to come down to the top of the chest. Then I'm going to ease back, allow a little bit of release for the shoulders, and then I'm going to try again. I'm going to pull out into the band, bringing it to the top of the chest. And then I'm just going to release back. So whether it's the band or the strap, if I don't have either, I can just do the movement, do the opening and closing with the arms. So it's entirely up to you. If I feel that the band is too much, I can just drop the band and work without the band. Just make sure that as you're pulling out and releasing back, the shoulders are not shrugging up to your head. So I'm not stiffening through the neck. I'm trying to keep the shoulders deep rest. I'm trying to keep the shoulders down as I put tension into the strap or put tension into the band. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. And releasing down, giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll. And then I'm going to reverse the effort. I'm going to feed the band around the back of the rib cage. So I'm going to wrap it around the rib cage. And then this time, instead of pushing into the band, instead of pulling into the band, I'm going to push into the band. So same as before, if you've got the strap, if there is no give yourself quite a lot of slack, so that as I push, I'm able to create a little tension through the front of the chest and the back of the arm. So I push, release, push, release. If the band is stretchy, again, I'm going to select the right amount of tension so that I can extend the arms in front. And then I'm just going to bend the elbows and come back. Same as for the pulling. If I feel that the tension becomes too much, so my neck starts stiffening, I'm just going to drop the band, and then I'm just going to do the action of pushing without anything, without a strap or without the band. So just the arms are moving forward and then easing back. So feeling the front of the chest and the back of the arm working, same as you did for the pulling. See if you can be aware of the shoulder position. I don't want to wear my shoulders as earrings, so I don't want my shoulders up to my ears. I'm going to keep the shoulders down and away, and then pushing the arms forward and then easing back. Pushing the arms straight ahead of me and then coming back. So if I'm seated, I'm driving the arms towards the opposite wall. If I'm laying down, I'll be driving the arms up and towards the ceiling and then coming back. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back. Giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the arms. I'm going to extend the left arm straight ahead. And then with the right hand, I'm going to hold either above or below the elbow joint. So not on the elbow because that will lock the elbow. So just above or below, wherever I feel that I've got a better control of the arm. Once that I've got control of the arm, then I'm just going to wrap it around the front of the chest. So I'm going to pull it towards me until I can feel the stretch going around that right shoulder and into the back of the shoulder. Keep the shoulder down and away from your head, again, down and away from your ears. And then as you're pulling down with your left arm, as you're pulling the arm across the front of the chest with your left arm, see if you can try and push away with the right. So I'm going to resist the pull. I should be able to feel a little bit more stretch behind the shoulder. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing back, rolling the shoulder, left arm straight ahead, holding with your right hand above or below the elbow, and then I'm going to hug the arm into the chest. I'm going to push the shoulder away from the head, and then as I pull with the right, at the same time, I'm going to try and push away with the left. Just a little resistance, feeling a little bit more stretch around the back of that shoulder. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Releasing back, giving the shoulders a little bit of a roll. If you're seated, see if you can shuffle the feet out nice and wide. If you're lying down, you want to keep the feet close together and then allowing the soles of the feet to come together and then the knees to flop out. So I'm trying to give a little stretch to the inner thigh. If I'm seated, I need to use my hands to help me. As if I sit here, I won't be able to feel the stretch. So I'm going to try and get the feet and the knees as far apart as possible. And then with the hands on the inside of the legs, I'm just going to apply a little pressure out to see if I can create a little stretch. There shouldn't be any pain onto the side of the hip. If I'm lying down, exactly the same, but I'm just going to use gravity. As the legs are dropping down, it's just gravity is pulling them down. Make sure that there is no pain into the side of the hip. If there is pain, I'm going to clench the fist and then I'm just going to wedge it between the leg and the mat. So the leg is supported. I'm not creating that pinch into the hip anymore, and I can still get a little stretch through the inside of the legs. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Easing the legs all the way back. If I'm lying down, I'm going to move my left leg out of the way, bring the right leg up. With the left hand, I'm going to hook around the right leg, and then I'm just going to gently pull it across. I want the right hip to stay on the floor. So this time I'm trying to stretch the side of the hip, the side of the bum. If you're seated, same as usual. If you can cross the legs, I'm going to try and cross my right leg over the left. If I find that I can't get the leg over, then I'm just going to keep them together. With the left hand, I'm going to hook around the side of the thigh, and then I'm just going to pull both legs across to the opposite way. So stretching gently down the side of the leg into the side of the hip. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Easing back, switch inside. So if I can cross, I'll cross. If I can't, I'm going to keep the legs side by side. Right hand over that left leg, and then I'm just going to pull across the other way. If I'm laying down, I'm going to extend the right out of the way. Bring the left towards me, and then gently pulling it across, making sure that the left hip stays down on the floor. If it starts lifting, it becomes a twister. So I'm taking the stretch into the back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Easing the legs, so giving the legs a little walk, a little shake. When you're ready, if you're lying down, rolling over onto your side and then pushing yourself up into sitting, finding your comfortable seated position. So crossing the legs, opening the legs, sitting on the sofa, sitting on the mat, whichever it's easier. Just making sure that I'm able to sit reasonably upright. So I might lean against the wall. I might lean against something that is steady, that is going to support me. And then from there, I'm going to start extending through. So pushing the breastbone forward. I'm going to try and open up and lift across the front of the chest. I'm going to let the shoulders slide down and away from the head. I'm going to start looking forward, looking up, looking back, opening up all that front line from your chin all the way down to your pubic bone. And then I'm going to release, reverse. I'm going to drop the chin down to the chest, allowing the shoulders to come forward, the back to roll down as far down as I feel comfortable going. And then I'm curling my way back up again. Bring the chest forward, shoulders back, shoulders down, lengthening through the front of the body, looking forward, looking up, looking back. And then releasing, coming forward, rolling your way down and towards the mat again. Last time, uncurling all the way back, extending through, chest is forward, shoulders back, shoulders down, looking forward, looking up, looking back. And then easing your way back to the front. One hand to the belly, one hand to the back. Take your bow. Give yourself a clap. Well done. Any questions?